Welcome back to another episode of Better Call Sexton. Good to see everybody again. Please hit the subscribe button, the like button, turn on notifications, all those wonderful things that helps the channel. We have got an insane docket for you today. Cancel culture is back. But is it in the opposite direction? We talk about politics, marriage, how it's affecting your relationship. U.S. law agencies issue a statement warning against TikTok lawyers. I plead the fifth. Mackenzie, Dern, MMA star, airs her grievances outside of the ring over her alimony obligations. And as always, we take a look at your viewer submissions. Let's get after it.
So, James, everyone wants to know your take on Jimmy Kimmel, this whole situation.
Really, though, everyone? Does everyone want to know? Like, I don't know that everybody. Maybe everyone who's watching knows. I don't think everyone. I don't think there's people in Somalia right now going like, what does Sexton have to say about Jimmy Kimmel? I think that was hyperbole, Bill. I got to tell you. I'm sorry. It's that kind of day. I've been in court all day. I'm feeling saucy. That's why the tie's undone. It was starting to choke me like a noose. So, yes, Jimmy Kimmel. Listen, same things I said about Charlie Kirk, which is free speech. Look, this sounds like it was a professional hit to some degree. Clearly, this has a lot more to do with political implications and a merger deal that's happening in the FCC than it does Jimmy. I listened to those comments Jimmy Kimmel said, and I have to tell you, it's not the first time I thought Matt Walsh has gotten it wrong, but this is a time where I think Matt got it wrong. No shade to Matt, liked the guy, enjoyed working with him in the past, but I don't think that you can meaningfully say that what Jimmy Kimmel said was of such a level of offense that he should be shut off of the airwaves. I think that this is something that's going to bite everybody. Look, I have to tell you, only in my profession should we be allowed to argue both sides of every single issue, because that's what we do for a living. But when the left criticizes the right for doing something that the left does, or the right criticizes the left for doing something that the right does, it's ridiculous. Like the suggestion, for example, that Elon Musk is a free speech absolutist. No, he's not. No, he's not. Like, listen, he's a defender of free speech, but he tends to prefer it when people are agreeing with him, and he tends to be a little less of a free speech absolutist when people are disagreeing with him or saying things that are uncomfortable to him or saying things that he disagrees with. The same thing happens on the left and on the right, and I have to tell you, personally, as an attorney, a person who has to argue both sides of issues all the time and has to try to understand the other side's argument as well as I understand my own. That's why I am something of a free speech absolutist. I think that if we are going to put restrictions on people's speech, there has to be an imminent threat of harm. It can, and by the way, when I say harm, I don't mean, well, the things they say might motivate disturbed people to do terrible things, because you can say that about almost anything anybody says. And you can't say, well, harm in this very general sense, because guess what? The left's definition of harm is the exact opposite of the right's, and the right's is the exact opposite of the left's. So at the end of the day, it really has to be, like everyone uses the example of, well, we put restrictions on speech all the time. You can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. Right. Because very clearly, the imminent risk of serious harm to people in that movie theater versus the value of that speech, which is almost nothing because it's inaccurate. By the way, you're allowed to yell fire in a crowded movie theater if there's a fire in the crowded movie theater. You're not allowed to, for fun, say that there's a fire in a crowded movie theater because, again, the value of that speech, that gag, that enjoyment of, ooh, I did this shocking thing, versus the imminent risk of serious physical harm that it creates. Not emotional harm, not hurt feelings. Look, the solution to bad ideas is good ideas, and the marketplace of ideas requires that people be able to get up and criticize politicians, each other, themselves, whatever they want to, as long as they are not creating an imminent risk. Read my lips. Imminent risk of serious harm. Not, well, long term, this could motivate people to feel a certain way about a certain group and then they could cause harm to that group. That's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous way of looking at things. It's an un-American way of looking at things. So Jimmy Kimmel, absolutely, I defend his right to get on TV and say everything he wants to say about Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans and all the negative things. Do I agree with him? No, I don't agree with him. I don't think it's right for the left or the right to vilify the other side in such unequivocal terms. I don't think hyperbole is particularly helpful. And the bigger the microphone that you've got, the more of a responsibility you've got to say things that are responsible. But at the end of the day, do I believe that there should be a suppression of his speech or a deplatforming of him, particularly in a political manner? No, I don't think that that's accurate. I don't think it should be done. And to tell you the truth, I think Charlie Kirk is a good example of someone who probably would have very much defended Jimmy Kimmel's rights to say anything he wanted to, including if Jimmy Kimmel wanted to say that he thought Charlie Kirk was an absolutely awful human being and that he deserved horrible things to happen to him. I defend someone's right to say that. I also defend my right to say that that person's an asshole for saying that. You know, again, I was misinterpreted on social media when I posted my comments about how people should shut up about criticizing Charlie Kirk when he had just been murdered, and that this is a human being with children and a family. And even if he didn't have children and a family, this is a human being who was murdered for saying things. Everyone who's American should be offended by that. But do I believe that people have the right to get up and say horrible things about Charlie Kirk at inopportune and indelicate times? I defend their right to be that kind of asshole. And I think Charlie Kirk would have also. And I think Jimmy Kimmel, again, he has a right to say the things. He has a right to be wrong. Charlie Kirk had a right to be wrong, and the good ideas have nothing to fear of bad ideas. So look, I think the deck is a little too early here in this game. I think that what's actually going to happen with Jimmy Kimmel, this might in 6 months be something that completely blows over. Right now, he's getting a lot of attention, a lot of press. How often has anybody been talking about Jimmy Kimmel like they are right now? He's like in the top of the news cycle. So God bless, it might be the best thing ever happened in his career, because I don't know that everybody was obsessed with Jimmy Kimmel before that. So that's my 2 cents. There you go. And guess what? If you disagree with it, no problem. I'll defend to my death your right to tell me what an idiot I am. I'm all for it. Knock yourself out, comment away, post your own video, do whatever you want to do, because good ideas have nothing to fear of bad ideas, and my beliefs don't require you to believe them.
So going off of that, you know, we have an article here from Fox News, bit of a biased source, I'll admit, but it is a bit, it's a bit bipartisan in its nature, saying
Fox News is fair and balanced. That was their slogan for many years. Just like CNN, very fair and balanced.
We have here from their online outlet, family breakups over politics may hurt more than you think. According to experts, Dr. Chloe Carmichael warns that shunning family over politics fuels loneliness and weakens healthy dialogue. Quote, cutting off your social support, cutting off your family members, creating loneliness and isolation for yourself is actually one of the worst things you can do for your mental health. Dr. Chloe Carmichael told Fox News, quote, saying, that's like eating Twinkies for health food. What do we think about this?
I think we agree with Dr. Chloe. I think that's well said. Look, I don't know about you, but I have found several of my personal relationships in the last few weeks strained by me speaking my mind about the issues of free speech, what constitutes harm, all of the issues that have come up for all of us individually and as a culture in the current zeitgeist and what's happening right now, and in light of these events that have happened. And it's strained some of my relationships because there are people that I love and respect very much, and I absolutely disagree with their perspective on this. But here's the thing, gang, fight ideas, not people. I'm a big believer in that. Like I've had a number of my friends that I had very heated exchanges with, whether it was via text message or via phone calls. Usually it's by text message, because just like road rage, it's a whole lot easier to get nasty with somebody and get angry with somebody and go back and forth with somebody when you're not actually talking to a physical person one-on-one. So yeah, I had that happen. And then I made a conscious effort to say to those people something else that had nothing to do with politics. Just, oh, how's your cat doing? Or, oh, did you go to that concert? How was it? And then to say, hey, listen, you know what? I know we don't always agree on everything politically, but I hope you always know I love you. I hope you always know that one of the things I like best about you is that you have your own point of view and your own perspective, and that we love each other irrespective of the things we disagree on. I'm not afraid of disagreement, guys. Like some of my favorite people in the world, I disagree with all the damn time. It's the nature of my job to argue against people that I have a very good relationship with in real life. And in my hobbies, most of my friends have tried to choke me or break my limbs. That's part of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So like, I guess I don't have to vilify people in order for me to combat them, whether it's intellectually or physically. So I think we have to just get better at that. I think that this is a tough time for people. People have strong feelings and strong opinions about the things that are happening in our culture politically. I think that's great. But I think you have to remember, like, there is nothing, we really lost the plot in recent years with this, if you're not with us, you're against us mentality. That it's just not helpful to the world. It's not helpful to our families. It's not helpful to our culture. It creates assassins. This is what creates that kind of partisan division. It's not helping the world. The best thing that you can do right now is speak your mind about issues that you feel strongly about, speak freely and without fear of the threat of violence, and also remember to tell people in your life who have different views than you that you care about them and love them as a human being. Again, I didn't know Charlie Kirk. I disagreed with most of the things that I heard come out of that guy's mouth, but this is a person who I would have been very pleasant with if I met him. Matt Walsh and I have very different political views. We had a wonderfully civilized conversation on his show some years ago. Andrew Wilson of The Crucible, phenomenal debater, brilliant guy. We have completely different religious and political ideas. I mean, diametrically opposed on many issues. He is one of my favorite people. He's a funny person. He's a heartfelt person. He's a wonderful family man. He's a father. He is so many wonderful good things. I hate his point of view on so many issues. I love debating with him and arguing with him, whether it's in a public setting or in our private conversations. But I got to tell you, every one of those conversations, whether it's public or private, ends with us saying to each other how much we appreciate each other and how we're there for each other. And that's a person who has showed up for me many times in my personal life, and I've showed up for him in his personal life, and I always will, because I don't need to agree with you to care about you or to like you or to have a friendship with you. And anyone who tells you that you have to agree with someone's views and they're not allowed to say things that you're against or that are in total contrast to your political views, that you're betraying your ideals if you somehow treat that person with love, that's a ridiculous and un-American sentiment, and it's a toxic sentiment. You will ruin your relationships, and you will be poorer for it. You will have a sadder life for taking that position. I am so grateful for the diversity of perspectives in my friendship circle, and I hope that that's something that each of you can experience in your lives. But Dr. Chloe is absolutely correct that it is the equivalent of eating Twinkies and thinking it's a form of health food. To think that submarining your relationships is somehow moving your family, your life, or your culture forward. It's not. It's just creating division, derision, and unhappiness in everyone.
Up next, we have a report from Martin County in West Palm Beach, Florida, regarding TikTok lawyers and other questionable legal experts with many law enforcement agencies sounding the alarm, urging people not to let viral videos about rights and people's legal obligations replace actual legal counsel. Now, as an actual TikTok lawyer, someone who is a lawyer and happens to be on TikTok, how do you feel about this?
I think preach, Florida. Preach. Amen. Can I get an amen? Yeah, look, I have to tell you, the amount of crap advice, like crap legal advice that non-lawyers are giving on TikTok is shocking to me. I watched one the other day where this person who purports to be a divorce coach, which again, no idea what that credentialing means, but certainly they're not an attorney, giving advice about what you should be saying or not saying to your lawyer based on what I can tell is their experience of having had a bad divorce and possibly a bad experience with a lawyer, which happens sometimes, but in no way qualifies you to give legal advice. Like, we had to go to college for 4 years, law school for 3 years, and then take a comprehensive bar examination that was really, really hard. So hard that I tattooed the date that I passed it on my arm after I passed it, because that's how much effort was involved in studying for and passing that test. So listen, gang, don't take advice from lawyers on TikTok unless they're actual lawyers. If they know a lawyer, or if they're an antitrust lawyer and they're giving you family law advice, run in the other direction. A foot doctor should not be telling you how to do brain surgery. And by the way, a brain surgery doctor shouldn't be telling you what to do with your feet. I am wholly unqualified to give you advice about medical malpractice law or to give you advice about real estate law, except to the extent that it intersects with family law, in which case I am highly qualified because for 25 fucking years, I have been in the trenches with my nose in it. So if you're a divorce coach who went through a divorce and you've talked to some people that got divorced and you went and got a certificate online that says that you are now qualified to advise people about divorce, stay in your lane. Do not give people legal advice unless you are a lawyer. And I'll take it a step further. Don't pretend you're an actual practicing lawyer if you just went to law school and never set foot in a courtroom. Because if I had $1 for how many people that say, I'm a former family law attorney, and they practiced family law for all of about 6 months before going into some other line of work, shut up, get out of the way, and let the people who actually do this job and follow the law and study the law, like in addition to being in courtrooms doing this job every day for 25 years, I also, in my free time, read all the new appellate decisions and all the Court of Appeals decisions so I can stay up on changes in the law. I'm a member of the New York State Bar Association Family Law Legislative Committee for over a decade, so I'm looking at what's the next law going to be when it makes it through the legislature. So again, I'm not saying that to say I am the greatest expert in the history of family law. I mean, you can say that if you want to. But at the end of the day, what it's about is I'm qualified to give family law advice on TikTok. Just because you got divorced, or just because you had a good or bad experience with a divorce lawyer, or just because your cousin knows a guy who knows a girl who got divorced, does not make you qualified to provide legal advice on TikTok. Again, free speech. I defend your right to make an ass of yourself on TikTok by offering people family law advice. But I got to tell you, the plethora of terrible advice that people are giving out there is shocking. So I support any measure. And it sounds like this is just sort of a warning that they're giving to people. But yes, in case someone needed to tell you that, don't take legal advice from non-lawyers. I mean, write that down if you need to. Similarly, don't take medical advice from people that have absolutely no medical training. And by the way, while we're at it, don't take advice on brain surgery from someone who's a foot doctor. Not to disparage foot doctors, not to elevate brain surgeons, but it's just completely different fields. So I would absolutely applaud anybody who says, TikTok lawyers, shut up. I mean, again, you have the right to speak, but we have the right to ignore you, and we should be ignoring you.
We have a case here of when things go wrong doing too well. Now, Jim, I know you're somewhat involved in the fight world.
Mackenzie!
Is she a friend of the show? Is Mackenzie?
I can't say Mackenzie's a friend of the show. We've met a couple of times. We're both, she's a phenomenal jiu-jitsu player. She's a really, really talented on the mat. She's legit. She's always been a legit jiu-jitsu person. There are some people in jiu-jitsu, particularly women's jiu-jitsu, who they're very attractive, and that's why they have a gabillion followers on Instagram. It's not that they're particularly adept at jiu-jitsu. And then there are some female jiu-jitsu players who are unbelievable. Their game is fantastic. They're super talented. They could ragdoll me in 2 seconds. Mackenzie falls into that category. She's a phenomenal jiu-jitsu player. She's very, very talented. And she's been in that game a much longer time than she's been into mixed martial arts. And it doesn't hurt that she's also a very attractive woman. I remember going to the IBJJF Masters Worlds in Las Vegas many years ago, when they first started having it there. And I remember there was like a table for some of the best jiu-jitsu people were there, some of the best men. And they had like small crowds. Jiu-jitsu wasn't as big as it is now. And I remember there was a line around, and I thought, oh, this must be for like Rickson Gracie. This must be for some really, really high-end person. And it was for Mackenzie. And it was mostly just dudes because she's very beautiful. It was also like 10 years ago. She was also 10 years younger. But yeah, I mean, Mackenzie's a legit jiu-jitsu person, legit MMA fighter. But I know what this clip's going to be about. All right, here we go.
Comment that you made, one of your fights, you were like, this fight is literally still paying for my separation and my divorce.
Yeah.
Is that something that you still feel like you're still having to commit so much money to that financial burden and to support him?
Yes, 100%. It's something that, like, living in California, it's a state that it's like, it blows my mind. It blows my mind how basically I go to court almost every year because he comes with this, whole map of how my career will be, like, oh, that she's going to win the belt here in a couple of years and then she's going to make this money. And it's just like, it's crazy to me how people can just be money orientated about other people's money.
So he goes in there and like projects your earnings.
Yes. Yeah. Well, him and his lawyers, right? Yeah. Like, okay, so she'll probably win the belt in 2 years or 1 year. And then people who win the belt, they make about this much money. I don't work. I'm like trying to work and provide this life for my daughter and like being a mom and taking care of her and doing all this thing. And then I still have to pay him and I have to pay his lawyers to fight against me. And so I'm like paying his lawyer's fees to get my money. And I'm paying my lawyer and then I'm paying him just to be like a dad. You know what I mean? Just like a dad. Just hold on. I just want to, what's that smell? That's equality. Yeah, that's equality. That's what that smells like. That's gender as a construct. Yeah, gang, look, I have sympathy for Mackenzie, just like I have sympathy for everyone who pays child support. But at the end of the day, this is an economic issue. And to turn around and say,
that, oh, I can't believe it. You know, they project my earning capacity. Yeah, that's how we calculate child support. For men, for women, doesn't matter. Like, this is the last remaining feminist taboo. You can have like the most Bella Abzug feminist girl bossing into the sun. Mackenzie is an MMA fighter. She's tough as hell, but she's on the ropes on this one, just like most men who pay child support. It's economic. It has to do with numbers. It's not your gender. It has nothing to do with your gender. The law is theoretically gender blind. I think there's a lot of people that would say that's not the case. But just the fact that she could get up there and with a straight face describe how child support works in the United States, in California, New York, in every state, and as if she's being personally affronted, that I can't believe this. I mean, he's just a dad. What would happen if a man got up and said, you know, she's just a mom. Why do I have to pay child support? It's almost like every year they look at how much money I'm making and they adjust the support based on that. Yeah, no, it's not like that. That's how it is. That's exactly how child support works. And again, has nothing to do with your X or Y chromosomes, has everything to do with the basic economics of it. So look, my heart goes out to Mackenzie. My heart goes out to anybody that is experiencing economic stress as a result of family law issues. But you're not going to get that much sympathy from anybody. I've certainly seen my fellow members of the jiu-jitsu and MMA community sort of pillorying her for this, saying, hey, listen, welcome to the reality for like most divorced men. Mackenzie is a champion. She's an excellent athlete. She has a very bright future as an athlete. She chose to marry someone who does not have that same level of earning capacity. If she chose to marry a hedge fund owner, he'd be paying her child support right now, even if he had custody of the kids. I mean, that's the economic reality, is that in most states, even if you have 50-50 custody, or if this person who is has the children full time, if they are the moneyed spouse, if they're the individual who earns more than the other individual, then for the purposes of child support, the non-custodial parent becomes the custodial parent for the purposes of receiving child support. It is nothing other than income redistribution. It is nothing other than math. So look, get a good lawyer. There's quite a few of them in California, Mackenzie. Like, the reason she's such a good jiu-jitsu player is she had great coaches. The reason she's so good at MMA is she's had great coaches. What a lawyer is a coach for that fight. And believe me, that's an expensive and complicated fight. But the only thing more expensive than a good divorce lawyer is a bad one. Remember, gang, to send your submissions, your questions, comments, hate mail, love mail, whatever it is you want to send us at sextonshow.com. We read it all. And when we find a choice one, we bring it up and share it with you in this segment. So make sure sextonshow.com. And remember, again, notifications, alarm bell, all those wonderful things. Like, subscribe. It does mean a lot to us.
I'd love to note here from the producer before we get into this this crazy submission. This is in fact real. This was received on our submissions form. I handpicked this out because it was so. Just take a look.
All right, I haven't seen this yet, so I'm trusting your. I saw a video of my wife having sex with her ex while using her laptop. Well, we are off to a hell of a start on this story. I see why I caught your attention. She didn't know it was there and she feels sorry for me. I struggle with the thought of it, flashbacks, and the thought of the possibility of other videos existing in the past or anywhere else. We've been married for a few months now and we're in our early 20s. I love my wife and she's the best person I've ever met. It's just hard to deal with. Having your partner be your trigger for that is pretty rough. Maybe because I'm young or maybe because I'm jealous, or it affects men a lot deeper than women. I don't know. You know what? I have to tell you, I appreciate this submission, and my laughing, please don't take it as me not taking this seriously. Because that's a very human feeling that you're expressing there, and it's brave of you to say it. Look, gang, I don't think anybody, except people who have that particular kink, really likes the thought of their current romantic partner having had sexual encounters with prior partners. It's not something that most people find hot. In fact, it's something that most people that I know, and myself included, don't find hot. We find it the opposite of hot. We find it uncomfortable. And everybody's got their damn phones, and everybody's sending nudes, and everybody's taking videos because everything's all hunky-dory and wonderful in the relationship, and we're always going to be together. But that's not really how it works most of the time in real life. And then there's all these videos and photos out there floating around, and you have them on your phone or you have them on your laptop. And it's ripe for something that your partner might accidentally stumble upon or intentionally stumble upon thinking they want to see it. What I'll tell you is, you don't want to see those things, most people. I think most people, it's very uncomfortable. Just like when people have affairs, they think when they find out about the affair, they want to know every detail of what the person did. You don't. You don't actually want to know it because, yeah, I'm sure your imagination is probably worse than reality, but reality's pretty bad too. And the more detail you have of it, the more you're going to combine that detail that you have with the imagination that you have. So like that's a very normal human thing, I think, to feel so awful. Give it time. Just give it time. Accumulate your own memories with this person. If, as you said, this is a wonderful partner and someone you love and means the world to you, we all have a past. We all have things we've engaged in our life that we probably wish we could take back, or even if we didn't, they help shape the person that we are. Nobody really likes to think, again, unless you have that kink, which I'm not kink shaming anybody, but we all don't like to think about our partner's past. So don't. Do your best not to think about that. People have a past, but one of the great things about relationships is we're born anew with every relationship. That's why I think all this talk about body count and all those things. I understand that there's some arguments to be made about a high body count leads to a higher rate of divorce. I'm not a social scientist, so I can't comment on whether that's true or false. I take it to be true because it seems like there's some science behind it. But look, at the end of the day, I also think that people just should be born anew in relationships. We learn in relationships what we want and what we don't want. Maybe in a prior relationship, you choose to be a little more wild or a little more crazy, or your partner was someone who was a little more adventurous, or maybe it was a past younger iteration of you that engaged in those behaviors. If you're happy in your relationship in the present, here and now, all we have is the here and now. And I tend to look at where people are. I believe in redemption. I believe in change. I believe in it because I've just seen it over and over again. So be gentle with yourself. Don't beat yourself up for having difficult feelings about that, but also really do try to move on. Focus on the best part of what you just wrote to us, which is that you've got a really wonderful woman that you have a great relationship with in the here and now. And the more you focus on that, the more that those other things are going to fade in the distance. I hate to make the comparison, but if you've ever lost someone, if you've ever experienced death or grief, whether it's of a person or a pet, there's a time where you go, I'm not going to ever make it through an hour without thinking about this person and feeling the grief of their loss. And then at some point you go an hour, or maybe you go two. And then you realize you went an hour or two and you feel horrible and guilty about it. And then eventually you go a day, and then eventually you go a month, and then eventually maybe you never go more than a month. I don't know. But I will tell you, like time heals people. Time makes, good memories stay, and it makes difficult memories fade a little bit into the background. So be gentle with yourself, be gentle with your partner, focus on what you have. It sounds like you have a lot. It sounds like you have a good person. So be kind to yourself, be kind to your partner. I'm sure she's absolutely mortified by what happened there and wishes she could take it back. And I hope that the two of you navigate it in a graceful way, because it's much more important to love someone in the present than it is to dwell on their past or your own past. Okay, it's time for a Sexton-ism. For those of you who are new to the program, Sexton-isms are a collection essentially of sayings that I say so often that my staff makes fun of me because I tend to repeat myself in my metaphors, my jokes, my axioms that I share with clients, because I talk to people about a lot of the same things over and over again. So these things turn out to be useful wisdom that I repeat pretty often. So my staff has always said I should make a book of it, and until that book comes, you're stuck with this segment. So today's is, it's hard to convince a man of a thing when his salary depends on not believing it. It's hard to convince someone of a thing when their salary depends on not believing it. So it is very, very difficult to convince anybody of something that has economic repercussions for them. A lot of what I do all day is help people argue about money, whether it's child support, spousal support, equitable distribution of assets, counsel fees, expert fees. I spend a lot of time helping people argue about money. I spend a lot of time helping really rich people argue about money. And what I will tell you is when you try to talk to someone, for example, who's a defense contractor, about the fact that the weapons they put into the world are bad, you're probably not going to get them to acknowledge that, because getting someone to acknowledge a belief that is contrary to their self-interest and earnings is very, very difficult. So you're not going to convince somebody who works for an alcohol company how bad alcohol is. So ultimately, I think what you should always look at is who benefits economically from a transaction and how vested will they be in their beliefs based on the fact that it has something to do with their earnings. It's hard to convince someone of a thing when their salary depends on not believing it. Hey gang, that's all for today's Better Call Sexton. Remember, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It does help the channel. We'll look forward to seeing you again real soon. Take care.